Hi, my name is Jared. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Mettle in the Making. I just wanted to share a quick story with you. I'm going to do it audio only. I'm having a bit of trouble with my video recording equipment, but this is a story about my wife and I's journey through infertility, and it's called Between Two Islands. I hope you enjoy it. Between Two Islands. My wife and I, like all of us, were walking down the path of life, and for the most part we were enjoying the journey. The path wasn't always smooth, but we could usually see the path ahead. At times, when the path ascended, the challenging times in life, the legs would burn a bit, we would breathe a bit heavier, but we were usually rewarded with a better view of the path ahead. At these times of lofty vistas, we could see career progression, future holidays, and of course, snapshots of our imaginary little ones as they grew. I could see myself teaching my little one to sit, crawl, walk, ride a bike, and of course, water ski. My wife could see herself snuggling with her little one as she breastfed, then teaching them to speak Spanish, and then maybe making a snowman when we had a white Christmas. Admittedly, these projections and snapshots were fluid and somewhat low resolution, but they were real in that their presence brought a sense of joy, direction, and meaning. When we got our first diagnosis that our fertility was uncertain, a mist descended over the path, shrouding our hopes and dreams for the future. However, those snapshots of our little ones, paradoxically, became more vivid, and now were a source of intense pain instead of joy. The mist only periodically cleared, briefly revealing projections just long enough to give us hope and strength to keep trying different treatments. As the bad diagnoses continued, the mist turned to a fog, completely obscuring the way ahead. And as it is with the path of life, waiting for the fog to clear is not possible. So we pressed on. At some point, maybe when we got the news about endometriosis, an earthquake hit. The land fell out from under our feet completely, taking our hopes and dreams with it, and we were now in the water. Not calm, warm water, rough, cold water. Felt like we had been dropped in the middle of the ocean. And as with the fog, stopping is not an option. We could only swim forward, hoping there was land somewhere over the horizon. Although we were moving forward, we no longer had the comfort of our imaginary children. Instead of joy, direction, and meaning, thoughts of children were now a weight on our soul, conjuring aimlessness, grief, and resentment. We swam together at first and enjoyed the company and support. At times, when the burden was heavier for one of us, or when one of us was low on energy, we would assist each other. But as the months turned into years, we both became exhausted and we became inwardly focused, only just barely able to stay afloat individually. Currents would occasionally separate us and we would fight to stay together because we were the only ones that knew what the other was feeling because of our shared experience. Other times currents would come between us and we would say, "Good luck. You are on your own. I hope you survive because I can't help you. I love you, but if I try to fight this current to stay by your side, I'm going to drown." We would float on our back, barely paddling, look up at the sky and pray that we both had the strength to survive until the currents brought us back together. We swam and felt like we were going around in circles, when at some point we saw two land masses appear on the horizon. Although we were still in the water, we were relieved to have land in view. As we moved in their direction, we realized that although both islands looked amazing, they were very different. One had luxurious overseas holidays, sleep-ins, romantic dinners, two-door sports cars, and hours devoted to careers and hobbies. It looked amazing, and life on this island would be meaningful and fulfilling. Of the two, however, it was not the island we preferred. This island was No Kid Island. The second island, the one we preferred, was of course Kid Island, and it had camping holidays, sleepless nights, children's laughter, SUVs, and hours devoted to developmental milestones and family time. It also looked amazing, and life on this island would be meaningful and fulfilling, just in a very different way. We knew that we could have a great life on either island, but Kid Island was definitely the one we wanted to go to. The islands provided comfort in that we would one day feel solid ground under our feet. The comfort came at a cost. This is one of the major elements of suffering of infertility. At any time, we could just swim to No Kid Island and get on with our lives. However, as tired as we were and as desperate as we were to get out of the water, we knew that once we swam to No Kid Island, we potentially forfeit our chances of having kids. We desperately wanted to be on Kid Island, and we didn't want to give up until we were confident that we had tried every reasonable treatment. It's difficult to be rational in the face of adversity, when you're exhausted, or when you feel you have been unjustly robbed. It's really difficult to be rational when you get hit by all three at once. Nonetheless, we tried not to act rashly, we talked to each other a lot, and we sought out professional help. And in the end, we decided that we were going to have to spend some time between two islands. Some days were sunny, and although we were still treading water, it was okay. We could see Kid Island on the horizon in one direction and No Kid Island in the other. We were expending effort, but we could take solace in the knowledge that one day we would be on either one of those islands. Other days were so windy and stormy that we couldn't see anything except the next wave of bad news that was going to force us under the water. Logically, we knew the islands were there, but when all your energy is devoted to staying afloat, the logical part of your brain is off, and it felt like we were never going to feel terra firma under our feet. Life rings of hope would periodically float by in the forms of previously unknown treatments or a new specialist. We would swim over and hold on to it and be so grateful for the rest. We would kiss each other, take a breath, and smile. Then some other issue or diagnosis would come up and rip it from our grasp so violently that we would be forced under the water and have to fight with tired muscles and burning lungs to get back to the surface. Eventually, we would see life rings of hope floating past, and we would look at each other and say, "It's not worth it." Getting to Kid Island for some is easy or even accidental, but for us it required a number of difficult challenges be completed. These challenges almost exclusively had to be undertaken by my wife. The other fun part of infertility is that no matter how many challenges undertaken, success is never guaranteed. And yet it is impossible to succeed without completing at least some of them. Even though I was right by her side through this entire journey, I can still only imagine the level of suffering she endured. Her suffering far exceeded my own. My suffering was mostly in the form of watching her suffer. Watching the love of your life suffer is a very special form of suffering. I would watch her swim into the waters of a new treatment or surgery time and time again, knowing that she was exhausted, helplessly lamenting about my inability to assist in any meaningful way. I would watch, waiting to hold her when she came back up for air so she could have a break. Sometimes I would swim with her just so she knew I was close. I would watch her lungs pump in desperation for relief, and I knew she was reaching a limit, but every time she completed the challenge before her. When it was completed, she would float back to the surface, I would hold her, and she would lay crying, hoping and praying that all her suffering would be rewarded, but tormented by the knowledge that it could all be for naught. Infertility, for the most part, is a lonely journey. Treading water in place intentionally between two islands is not something that society values or even understands. The lack of understanding around our purposeful treading of water led to various well-intended but nonetheless unhelpful rhetoric from the inhabitants of both islands. For the most part, we ignored it, recognising the intent. However, in our weaker moments, or when the shouting of unhelpful abstractions was persistent, the words felt like arrows being fired from the safety of shore towards us, vulnerably treading water with no means of dodging them or defending ourselves. In hindsight, all we ever wanted is for people to swim beside us for a while. Maybe just talk while we had some pizza. There were a few people that got in the water, maybe just for an hour or for a weekend, and it was so amazing to have the distraction from the ever-present emotional load of knowing that this self-inflicted torture was a huge gamble. If, in the end, the treatments didn't work, we could have saved ourselves years of pain by just swimming to No Kid Island as soon as we saw it. We knew we could be happy on No Kid Island, but we didn't want to be full of regret on an island that was our second choice. There'd always be times of what ifs, and if we had unlimited time, money, and capacity to suffer, we would eventually have success. But we didn't have unlimited time or money, and we don't have unlimited capacity to suffer. When do we make the swim to No Kid Island is not an easy question to answer. It wasn't really even conscious, but eventually we found ourselves drifting towards No Kid Island. And as our options faded to one last chance, I started swimming to No Kid Island. I previously thought that swim would be a relief, but as the realisation set in that we were not going to have children of our own, grief took over. I guess deep down inside we knew that our early days on No Kid Island would be filled with grief, but knowing that you're going to get hit with a hammer doesn't relieve the pain when it finally drops. Although I was grieving, I started to see the path ahead and was grateful to be headed towards solid ground. No man's land is not a fun place to reside for any length of time. To our surprise, the one last chance worked. My wife was pregnant. It was amazing news, and we couldn't believe that it had finally happened. You would think we would be grateful and start swimming straight towards Kid Island, but I didn't move. I was exhausted, and I was not going to start the swim away from No Kid Island until I felt more confident that our pregnancy was going to lead to a child. When our twin boys were born, we were firmly dumped on Kid Island. We were excited to finally be parents, but our extended time between two islands had taken a significant toll and left us exhausted at every level of our being. We couldn't help being a little sad that our dreams had finally come true, and now that they had, they demanded a lot from us at the very time we were our lowest. As it is with the fog, or when you're dropped in the middle of the ocean, or when you land on Kid Island, it is not possible to stop and rest. There is only forward. So forward it is. We picked up our little ones and got on with it. Now that we've been on Kid Island for a while, the path forward is starting to become clearer. We are starting to recover, and we are starting to enjoy some of the benefits of Kid Island after a rocky start. Now that I've had some time on solid ground, the island that I never thought I would feel under my feet, I look back towards the expanse that was my residence for so long, and I'm glad. I'm refined, I'm closer to my wife, I'm moving more intentionally in the world, and I'm actually grateful for the suffering. If you ever find yourself between these two islands, it's hard, so be kind to yourself. If you know someone that's between these two islands, it's hard, so be kind to them. In their short time with us, our twins have brought us more joy than we could ever have dreamed. With every day on solid ground, the exhaustion fades, as does the heartache. Although my heart is now overflowing with joy and my strength is returning, I will never forget my time between two islands.